The law concerning closing every mikveh to conservative or reform rabbis. I don't understand the war against the reform and the conservative. I think it's tragic. I think that you win over Jews and people in general through love, not through legal means forbidding this way of praying or that way of praying. My revered Rabbi, Rav Yosef Dov Soloveitchik, he said that religious coercion is a word and its opposite. If it's coercion, it's not religious. Religion is something that you do because you want to do it and because you believe it's necessary to do it, not because you're forced not to be able to do this act or to go to this place. The tragedy, I believe, is that the people who are speaking out against the reform and conservative and waging war against them simply do not understand. I don't know if they've ever really come into contact with reform or conservative rabbis. I'm a proud Orthodox rabbi. The beginning of my rabbinate, I was sent into a conservative synagogue. Didn't take a salary when I was there. I davened first myself because I couldn't daven in any mixed situation. It was very clear that I wasn't praying with them, I was praying alongside of them and leading the services in effect. But I won the battle, and I turned a conservative synagogue into an Orthodox synagogue. So I'm certainly a proud Orthodox rabbi. And I believe with all my heart and soul in halachic Orthodox Judaism. However, I teach my students, and thank God, we're producing more Orthodox rabbis than any other group outside of Chabad. And we have 400 Jewish communities all over the world with our rabbis, literally, including Africa. I tell my students, look, you can't pray in a conservative or reform synagogue because it's mixed seating. But they're not our enemies. They're our partners. And I know that sounds strange to most of the people in Israel. But anyone who's trying to bring Jews closer to Judaism is my partner and not my enemy. Now, as I said, I can't daven with them. I don't agree with everything that my partners do. But most partners don't agree with everything that the other partner does. But they are bringing Jews closer. They are not rabbis who are tearing religious Jews away from their Judaism. That may have been true in the beginning of the Reform movement. It's very different now. They're trying to bring Jews closer, not to the wholeness, fullness of Orthodox Judaism that I love and that I know, but nevertheless, they're trying to bring Jews closer. What's the downside if they use the mikvot? Maybe they'll have a little bit of tahara. Maybe one of the conservative Giurim, many years ago, the Giurim of Rabbi Altstadt from the Jewish Theological Seminary was considered a valid conversion. Perhaps today, if they use a mikveh, many of the conservative conversions will be considered valid, at least b'diavad. What's the downside risk? At least post facto. But what I'm saying is, there is no logical reason for forbidding everyone non-Orthodox. And who exactly is non-Orthodox? And what are the standards for Orthodoxy? Why must we exclude people from the mikveh? I don't understand it.
Let's move now to United States, the terrorist attack. What do you think about that? And what do you think about ISIS?
The terrorist attack was horrific. It was the largest number of Americans killed in a shooting rampage in American history. 50 people are dead, another 50 wounded. It was a horrific experience. Let me say as clearly as I can say it. President Obama made a terrible mistake in not calling evil, evil. Everyone speaks about the monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. That may be true. However, for us, for Jews, for the Tanakh, for the Torah, monotheism is not what was discovered by Abraham. Ethical monotheism was discovered by Abraham. Those who disagree with Islam deserve to die, the infidels. This is not ethical monotheism. Everything depends on interpretation, as I explained about the Jews even, and about the Christians. And that's the importance of Torah Shabbat Peh. And I think instead of trying to be so politically correct, if President Obama would call a meeting of the major imams from the major mosques in the United States to make a clear and loud statement, unequivocally, that these great Muslim leaders do not believe that the goal is jihad and world domination and death to the infidels who don't believe like they believe. And then that would give certain strength to the many millions of Muslims. And I come across the Muslims of the villages near Efrat. We have marvelous relationships, and they want peace like we want peace. And we've had 33 years of peaceful relations. So I know that there are Muslims who are really very, very fine people and believe, like I believe, in peace and not in jihad, in the right of religious freedom and not in religious domination and destruction to anyone who doesn't believe like you believe. But unfortunately, the message is not loud enough, and the good Muslims are afraid to speak out. And if President Obama would do that, he would be doing probably the greatest service he could do for ultimate world peace. But that's absolutely crucial. Because until that point, unfortunately and tragically, as long as one terrorist attack after another is accompanied with Allah Akbar, it's very difficult to place the Muslims within ethical monotheism. And that would be a pity.
But you know, all the people in all over the world say that this is a radical Islam, and only the President Barack Obama not say that this is a radical Islam. Maybe this is the problem?
It's not just a semantic issue, but it is a problem. You have to recognize evil and destroy evil if you want to enthrone the good. And that's really what the issue is. There are many silent Muslims who want peace, as I said. But we have to put on the kind of pressure that will give them a voice and an opportunity for the other kinds of interpretations of the Quran to be given a strong and powerful voice. And that time is now, because extremist Islam is threatening to destroy Western civilization and the entire free world.
Last question is about the election now in the United States. can I ask who you support? And what do you think about Mrs. Hillary Clinton and Mr. Donald Trump?
You can ask me, but I'm not going to answer. I still hold an American passport, in addition to my very proudly held Israeli passport. I proudly vote in both elections. I make Birkat She'echianu when I vote, especially in Israel. And I believe in the right to vote, and in the right of everybody to have a free choice that he doesn't necessarily have to share. But what I would say is this very strongly. I think what the election, it's a very interesting, the most fascinating election in my lifetime. And I think what's most interesting about the American election is the tremendous disgruntlement, disappointment, and rejection in both parties with the present government. With the fact, for example, that the present government voted for a nuclear Iran. I was very proud of President Obama when he went to Congress. He did a marvelous thing. Because Judaism stands foursquare for morality and against tyranny. The very first seal of the United States was fashioned by Benjamin Franklin. And it's an amazing seal. It's a marvelous tapestry that pictures the Reed Sea and the splitting of the Reed Sea. And the Egyptians are drowning, and the Hebrews are emerging triumphant from the waves. And the caption reads on top, "Rebellion against tyranny is obedience to God." The founding fathers of America learned the lessons of the Bible, of our Bible. That God chose Abraham so that he could teach compassionate righteousness and moral justice to the generations after him, and thus bring blessing to all the families of the earth. America believed in that. The founding fathers, almost each of them, knew Hebrew well. There was a John Selden who wrote, I think, exclusively in Hebrew. And they understood ethical monotheism. It's being forgotten. And the whole world now is standing at the cusp of a very dangerous period. Because God forbid, if Islamic extremism wins out, there's no more free world. The Western culture that we know and we appreciate will have been a passing phase, and we're going to another black, deep, dark period. Now, Islam had a marvelous period during its Sufi period. Translated all of the Greek classical literature. And it was very enlightened. But again, it didn't see a physical jihad and a physical domination and destruction of anyone who disagreed with your religious beliefs. We can't blind our eyes. We have to make certain that the Muslim leadership loudly and clearly disavows jihad and political tyranny. That will bring a blessing to the world. And that will hopefully be the gateway to world peace and not destruction.
Rabbi Shlomo Riskin, Rabbi of Efrat, thank you for this interview.
Thank you very much. All the best.